Once upon a time, there was a girl with golden locks. You know what? Maybe it was like a rugged, woodsy dude. Yeah, too hard, too soft, too... This Goldilocks wanted something tastier.
Those look just right.
First, he drove the Ram 2500 Rebel to pick up some dinner.
That, if you didn't recognize it, was the Goldilocks and the 3 Trucks commercial that debuted during Super Bowl 59 featuring Glen Powell for Ram Trucks. And today, we're talking to the creative minds behind it, Jessica Zalaznick and Adrien Bindi of GSD&M. Jake and I sat down with them at their offices in Austin to discuss their career paths, the exciting challenges of creating a Super Bowl ad, and their insights on working with celebrities like Glen Powell and directors like David Leitch, who directed the Goldilocks spot, as well as the future of advertising, their perspectives on creativity, and, as always, a little career advice. So, whether you're an advertising pro, here to learn, or just love talking Super Bowl commercials, I'd say this one's for you. And I would also love it if you join us on social media to congratulate Jess and Adrien on their first Super Bowl spot. So, here we go.
A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
I think we're going to be here a while.
My name's Adrien Bindi. I'm a creative director, background in art direction. Been at GSD&M for a few years now and started wearing Jess a couple years ago.
My name's Jessica Zalaznick. I am a creative director as well, copywriter background, and I've been at GSD&M for 7 years, over 7 years, so a long time.
All right. Well, we're going to dive into how you guys started working together and your team dynamics. But I'm going to, as you may have seen, do some icebreakers here. I'm going to warm you up. So if you're willing, you don't have to answer all these, but what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you during a production?
I have so many.
Go for it.
All right. The worst thing, there's 2 things. Can I tell you 2 stories?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first story would be we were shooting, it was for Verizon, and we were shooting a series of spots, and we had the same main character in every spot. So the spot was about this guy. And we finally had worked our way to this really epic spot. We had this famous director, Sam Bayer, was shooting it. You know, we had poured a ton of money into this thing. And no one told us, but our main actor showed up in an arm cast from wrist to shoulder. And it was a football spot, and he was the quarterback in this spot. So he just shows up on set, no heads up, and we had to just proceed from there. And I think it just kind of set things off on a weird foot or something, but ever since that kind of happened, like another thing happened on set, something happened to our ECD, kind of things went off the rails, but at the end of the day, the spot turned out okay.
You can fix all that in post, I think, right?
That's exactly what we did.
Yeah. Well, let's kick this off. How the heck does that happen?
I don't know how we didn't get a heads up. So
Did somebody just want the job and say, I'll let them deal with my cast?
I think they were scared to tell us, is honestly what I think, but I don't know. I've never had that happen again, but it was an intense shoot. But like you said, you can fix it in post, and it turned out okay. So that was one thing. And then the other thing that happened to me once, we were on production in New York City. We were shooting in Chinatown. I had gone out for Chinese food. I eat there all the time. You know, I grew up there. And I ended up having a horrible allergic reaction to the food on set. And it was this big production, tons of money. We were shooting with this famous director, Danny Kleinman. We had James Franco was starring in the spot, so I was really excited about it. And just as the minutes were going by, my face was just getting poofier. My eyes turned black, my face poofed up, but I was able to breathe okay, so I stayed on set the entire time. But probably the most embarrassing moment was I was trying to give a note to James Franco. I was telling the director, and he just said, you know, why don't you just go up and give the note to him yourself? So I walked over, and James Franco was looking at me like horrified, like, please, crazy lady, don't get anywhere near me. But anyway, I survived, and it never happened to my face again.
Boy, those are good ones. Those are good ones. What do we got?
I've never had bad luck on a shoot ever. Only
Mark this man down as a liar.
On the tape. Nothing that extreme. I did get interrogated at customs one time going through Canada. While the whole team was on their way to the airport, I was in the interrogation room when the young security guy starts putting on a plastic rubber glove, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not smuggling anything into your country.
What a scene.
And then they let me go. So I don't really know what that was about, but that was uncomfortable, and I was a little scared, but made it out. Yeah. And then my partner got the best hotel room. So not great, but
That's I feel like the dynamics of staring another man into the eyes while you're snapping
it was a whole thing. It was a whole dramatic scene.
Yeah.
He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. He slowly snaps his rubber glove on. I was like, dude, I know you don't want to do this as much as I don't want you to do this.
Should have said it.
And we kind of came to heads, and he's like, you're right, I don't want to do this. And then that was the end of it.
That's funny. Okay. Going to start guiding us a little more towards relevancy while warming us up and breaking the ice. If you're willing to share it, worst executive or client or studio note you've ever received?
This is a classic one. I don't even know if this one's real anymore, but this was at a previous agency where some unicorns were written to a spot, and the client had given us the note. They didn't want unicorns in the spot because they were now extinct, and they didn't want their product to be perceived as outdated. And everyone kind of looked at each other, didn't really know how to tell her that unicorns...
Deadpan, dead serious.
Dead serious. Nobody really knew how to tell her unicorns aren't extinct. They just never existed.
Okay. How do we navigate our way out of that one?
I think someone just basically told her that and then, try to move on. And I'm pretty sure unicorns did not make it into that spot.
So she still got her way.
She still got her way.
It's a good lesson to learn here.
I've got nothing.
You've never received a bad note, huh?
There's probably been so many that I can't think of one at the moment, but that's a great story.
So you're playing it safe.
I'm playing it safe.
All right. If you weren't working in advertising, what would you be doing?
Oh, that's easy. So I have a huge passion when it comes to animal rescue and dog rescue, and I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan for over a decade, so I would love to do something with that as my career. I don't think that really would work out. Like, I enjoy what I do, and obviously I need to make a living, but I think, one day down the road when I retire, I'll focus all my energy there.
I like that. I talk about that with my mom sometimes. She's like, a few more years, it's all about the turtles. She's like, so,
I love that.
Yeah, get your plan set in stone now, because I'll be at SeaWorld in a few years.
You should get your TikTok out there.
Yeah, I started, thank you for that. I started a TikTok account maybe like a year or so ago, and my handle is Good Boy Gone Home. And I started just posting, I volunteer at an animal shelter here in Austin. I just started posting videos of dogs in need for Austin Animal Center, Austin Pets Alive. And it started to really take off. I have a decent amount of followers, and we've been able to find some really, really hard to place dogs, just dogs that can't live with other animals, dogs that can't live with young kids. We've been able to find a lot of them homes, so it's been pretty successful.
That's awesome.
The stuff is going off on she gets the views on TikTok.
I do, and
she throws some sad music on a dog, and people love it. It's crazy.
Okay, that's the
more than ads. We'll do TikTok to our client, and somehow those things will beat it every time.
It's true.
That's pretty universal, though.
Yeah.
You work really hard on something. 157 views. Dog with puppy sad music.
It works.
2 million.
It's so true. It's so true. And I've gotten a lot of PR around the articles too. So Newsweek and different news outlets will pick them up. And then it's amazing because obviously the more exposure, the more people that see it, we're able to find it homes. But yeah, the sadder it is, the more people that want to help. It's just a part of life. I keep saying sad sells. I've been giving people tips.
Not going to spin that into work? Go steal PetSmart?
Yeah. Maybe.
There you go. What would we be doing, Adrien?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think if I were not in advertising, I would hopefully still have made my way into film in some way. Like I wanted to be a director. I wanted to go to USC Film School at one point, something in that world. So maybe it would still be advertising from a different place. I don't know, or maybe photography or something in the visual field. I think.
I think he has directing in his future. I've been on set with him enough, and I really do think he would be great at it. He has the right personality for it. He has the right vision for it. So maybe down the road.
I think you should.
We'll get a pro bono project.
There you go, and we can do it that way.
All right, so since you know some filmmaking, I'm going to do a bit of a story structure thing here.
Okay.
Are we willing to talk a little bit about the big spot coming up first?
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah.
All right. Would you guys like to introduce the big spot so that I don't overspeak about it?
I think it's going to be like the hottest Super Bowl maybe ever, but maybe this year. I mean, we can tell you a couple things. It's got Glen Powell. He's pretty hot. That's Jess. we got fire. We got Ram trucks.
We got Van Halen.
We got Van Halen. We got lava. Got some abs.
We got a chainsaw. I mean,
we got
all the things in this spot. if you don't love this spot, I don't know what else we can do. But it turned out really great. I mean, I think we could probably talk about how we even came up with it.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear all about it.
I'm assuming they wouldn't mind,
but
it was interesting because just like taking a step back, multiple agencies threw in, and it in a sense is a competition. You know, I think there was like something like 20 agencies competing for this spot. Adrien said winning the spot was like winning the lottery.
It is. I heard 17, but you know,
a
times
lot.
that by however many spots people pitch, so that's hundreds. So it is kind of.
And just to affirm the direction you're going in, I actually would love to hear about that. That stuff's awesome. As far back as you're willing to go.
Yeah.
From if you're hearing like, hey, something's out there, we might have the chance to compete for this. We'd love to start there or even sooner if you're willing.
Well, I mean, our client, we work with Stellantis, so we work, Jeep, Ram, Dodge. They have some other brands. So we're AOR for a few of those, and then they do jump balls for some of these. This was a jump ball for the Ram trucks.
I've never heard it said that way. That's cool. It's a
jump
ball.
It's a jump ball for the Ram trucks. So I think they have, all their partner agencies pitching scripts, and the way they do it, it's not just like a presentation. You don't read a script. We write a script. I think there was an initial review where they kind of go through the idea, they pick a couple, then we turn them into like animatics.
Can I ask another question about it? Just to walking us in from the beginning here. Mm-hmm. So, as you said, the jump ball's up. Mm-hmm. Is there any concept whatsoever, or is it just everyone, we want a Super Bowl spot? Best one wins.
Everybody gets the same brief. So
there was, in this case, there was some details to the brief.
Yes, so everybody gets the same brief from the client. I don't know exactly how many agencies, but let's say there's 20 agencies. Everybody gets the same brief, and then our strategists actually interpret that brief and then brief the creatives in. So I imagine every agency is going through that same process. So that's where we're all starting. We're all starting from the same point, but then where we take it from there, different agency to agency.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any secret for this one. It was essentially the brief from the client was the power of choice. Ram Trucks makes a truck for everybody. So there's like, the high horsepower RHO, there's the electrified long range one, and then there's like a diesel heavy duty towing one. And it's sort of, pick your flavor, right? So that's kind of where the concept for, Goldilocks came.
Well, I don't want to jump the gun, but I was curious to know, I was wondering if you were going to say that because of, I guess you could say Glen Powell's new image, he's no stranger to the Ram now after Twisters. I didn't know if he came with the brief or if that was you all.
No, we originally, it's exactly how Adrien was describing it, whereas we knew they wanted to talk about the power of choice, 3 trucks. Not to take away from us, but the idea in a way almost wrote itself, because when you think about 3 and choosing between the 3, we thought, oh, Goldilocks, that makes so much sense. So the idea came first, and then we started to think about, okay, and we knew it wasn't just going to be a regular telling of Goldilocks. It's Goldilocks choosing truck, so it kind of becomes a more manly, if you will, kind of version of this story. So then we started to think about, okay, who would be right for that, and that's where Glen Powell came in.
Awesome. So you guys brought Glen Powell in to the creative.
Well, Glen has a relationship with Ram. He's with Twisters, and they've done some stuff. He's like, I like it. I want to do it. Ram's like, okay, great. And then he helped us sort of, which is different than most cases where we pick a director, we pick the talent. He was like, I'm in. I want to help find a director that he wanted to work with.
Really?
Yeah. We had a bunch of really big name commercial directors that were amazing. And he had someone, he wanted to work with sort of his Hollywood, his list, which is, different than our commercial list, which is pretty interesting. We ended up with David Leitch, who did Fall Guy. He's kind of known for the whole John Wick series.
Yeah.
His background is stunts, but he's become, Bullet Train. He's a lot of these action movies. So whatever Glen thinks in his future, he wants to be kind of doing this kind of stuff. He kind of helped sort of us land David, and that was actually pretty cool. He wouldn't have been on our radar, and he's an amazing director, but I think he kind of falls outside of our sort of purview of like commercial directors.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
So just to confirm, David is the director.
Yes, David Leitch is the director.
David Leitch is the director, yes.
And I think, like Adrien was saying, he has this background, David does, of stunts. He was a stuntman. He's super well known for that. And I think you'll be able to, you feel that in his movies. I think you're going to feel it in the spot as well. There's a lot of stunts and action, and it just really made the whole thing great.
Yeah.
It seems awesome.
It's really cool. It's interesting. I mean, I think he's got this like really interesting like action. He's comedy. He does comedy, but he does it in a very like interesting physical way, right? So working with Glen, I think it was really kind of cool to see him. There's actually some stunts. Glen performed. Actually, he didn't even have a stuntman. He did it himself, which will be revealed later. Yeah, it was really cool. It gives it a different, like a little bit of a different flavor than I think we would have done naturally. So that was interesting.
And I was going to also add that another really nice thing about working with them is both David and Glen were very collaborative. So they were on a lot of calls with us. We've worked with a lot of different directors. Sometimes they're more hands-off. Sometimes the celebrities are more hands-off. They were on so many calls and conversations with us leading up to it. So a lot of their ideas are actually worked into it. So it truly was between us, the two other guys that we were working with on the spot, and then David and Glen are a very collaborative process, and I really think it shows.
Interesting. So given who they are and their star power, that's a good thing, right? In this scenario, is that always a good thing? Because we're pretty much talking about the top here. I'm trying to find a way to make the question specific, but remember, we're kind of trying to be informative.
I mean, I think in this case, it was a great thing because, David really brought something new to it, and I think he elevated the original script in a really great way, like to a place we probably didn't really think it could go. So that's always what you want with the director, right?
Yeah.
Here's a script. It works. We've thought about these beats, but can you bring that magic that, takes it to another level? So I think he really did that. Glen really did that. Glen, became very invested in it, and he helped, sort of how the narration works.
Yeah.
So he ended up having a really pivotal, just simplifying the story a bit. That was great. I mean, it ended up working out really great. And they were both, I think, they didn't just come in, shoot it, and take off. They've been invested. And I think, Glen and David both through edit, through VFX, they've kind of stayed involved, which
that's cool.
They don't, people kind of say they want to, but they don't usually. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think also to answer your question, if you hire the right director and they're kind of working towards the vision that you've kind of all established together, you would hope that any ideas they have would help elevate the spot, ideally, and that they would be collaborative enough and that we would be collaborative enough to kind of push the thing off and make it better. But I can't think of any situations where it wasn't helpful.
Well, let's go back into your world a little bit, because as production companies, let's just say we're nervous, anxious, ready, excited when it comes time to have to pitch you all. What was the pitch process like for you? I
mean, this one was a little different because it was sort of, like we mentioned, we kind of made this animatic rip, and it sort of, it wasn't really a presentation to, a lot of times people will be in a room and read the script and kind of act it out. This was sort of packaged up and sent over and routed through their company, and different people weighed in and sort of picking favorites. We heard at one point it was down to 4. Jess was very positive. I was like, they're never making it. And then they're never making it. And they ended up one day being like, hey guys, we're going to make that one thing that you guys gave us, months ago. So
there was a decent gap of time that had gone by.
Yeah, months, maybe weeks. It was a while.
It was definitely weeks. Yeah, I would say it was months, but it was exactly that. It started off, if you take 20 agencies and imagine every agency's submitting 4 or 5 scripts.
Yeah.
So you're really competing against a pool of 100 ideas, and then it narrows down until the process. It starts as just scripts, narrows down till maybe there's 10, let's say a dozen automatics, and then they watch them all through and they pick their favorite, and then we just found out we won.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start guiding this more towards you guys. I'll abbreviate the process and say when the call goes out.
Yeah.
And when the call came here, did GSD&M come straight to you two, or was there several teams here that had the opportunity to get in on it?
There were several teams, and I would imagine every agency has multiple teams. I mean, it's really you go throughout your year as a creative, and some opportunities are great, some opportunities are so. This is, everyone wants an opportunity to work on a Super Bowl spot. Yeah. So anybody that had free time, is able to throw in on this usually. And this agency specifically is really good about giving people at all levels the opportunity, and then just the best spots rose to the top, and then those were ultimately the ones that were pitched to the client.
I mean, just that point, most of what we do on the side as creatives never gets made. We mostly are just pitching stuff, feeding stuff into a shredder.
This is why I said lean in, because that's really validating, because sometimes we'll go in, even as a company, sometimes we'll all go in and be like, man, that was a great pitch, wasn't it? That's a great treatment. And then it goes to somebody because company said, oh, they brought in a celebrity that we like. And we're like, oh, it's gone. And just all that work.
It is. And I think that's something you have to learn early in your career, is to just know that if you're still doing the best you can, but at some point it's not up to you whether it gets made or not. You just have to just keep doing it, try to be prolific in like having ideas, because eventually some of them do get bought and you hope they're the ones that you like.
Yeah. What was it like when you guys got the how did you get the notification that you got the Super Bowl spot, and what'd you do?
We had some beers. I mean, we got a note from our account team and they said, hey, like, we're going to make this spot. I still didn't really believe it because I'm just like that. And Jess was like, yay. So we went in, we came in, we had a nice little like gathering. We had some beers. It was cool. It felt like, I think, the agency, like the guys that run the account have had this for years, this opportunity to work on these. And it's been, I think Jay said 10 years they've been trying to land one of these. And then, some reason this year was the one. So everyone was excited. Yeah.
Did you pitch in person or online?
A few presentations where it was in-person scripts, and then ultimately I believe the animatics were just sent along.
Sent them along, okay.
The person that chose watched the 4 down, or a few people did, and then we got the notification that ours was selected.
Was your animatic within a whole treatment, like Bible deck package or something like that? So the entire thing was able to live totally on its own?
The spot was an animatic, but it's actually part of a bigger campaign that we sold through. The campaign is Drive Your Own Story, and the thought was really about like you're in control of your own life, or you're in control of your own story. So that needed a little bit more of a setup that wasn't expressed necessarily in the spot. So that had a manifesto, some writing around like, what does this idea mean? What does this mean to RAM? What does this mean to the consumer? So there was a little around that, and then they were able to actually play the animatic.
Awesome. So you guys, you get the call, you have your beers. What's the first thing you do when you come back Monday morning? Like, what's your first assignment that you have to, because the idea is done, conceptually, the creative is done. We know what we have to do as a production company. I mean, what are you guys doing?
We're reaching out to you guys. We're reaching out to production companies, trying to find a director, I think is pretty much the first thing. So we went, we did it. Looked at all the reels in the world we could find, picked our favorite people. Okay, all
Can
the
I
best
stop
people.
you? I'm going to have to interrupt you guys a lot just because these are some of the juicy questions. So you're looking at all the reels in the world.
Yep.
Where are you finding the reels?
In this instance, like a lot of us had directors in mind. I mean, we knew we could, I don't want to say choose from anyone, but we were really looking at some of the bigger players. So some of us had directors in mind, but a lot of times on this and more traditionally, the producers will actually bring producer will be assigned to the job, and they usually come in once an idea is sold through or towards the end of the presentation, so they start to get an idea of what we want to pull off, and then they'll usually bring producers forward to us. They'll put them in a spreadsheet or something. I would say a lot of times there would be like 20 to 30 options on there, and then
20 to 30 production companies.
20
directors.
Sometimes there's multiple directors at the same production company.
Okay.
And then we as creatives just start watching down the links. We have a lot of conversations. We look at their reels, and then
this is some of the golden nuggets. I'm so sorry for what
Yeah.
I'm going to interject,
Well,
but when I see the highlights, we'd love to know what pops out to you when you're looking at those reels, and how do you guys think when you're looking through those reels?
And well, it was interesting because you had said something before, like we feel like we'll do a really great treatment, but then ultimately maybe the agency doesn't pick you. I think a lot of times for creatives, and something that you learn later on and you learn with more experience, is that the treatment might sound right or great or exactly what you're going for, but then if you don't see the work in that director's reel, like you ultimately think like this maybe isn't the time that they're going to do it. So it's like, I think you need to see the work that you want, or some semblance of the work that you want in the director's reel, and if you don't see it there, that could ultimately be why that director wasn't selected.
This is very cool and validating, because that's probably, I'm going to say, the third big, clear, straight, direct time. I saw you listening to some prior episodes. Yeah. There's a guy who I liked talking to, Phil Cosid and Stanton Hill of Battery out in LA.
Yep.
And Phil said, all of the gifts and letters and every intention in the world, he said, they're nice. I cannot give you a job. There's too much money on the line. I have to know that you've done this before.
Yeah.
And that was the most clear, straight shot way to just be like, hey, everyone, I'm sorry. Figure it out. Even if it's a spec, I need to know, because you guys in this case, you're on the line.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of directors that friends, people like I want to give them an opportunity, but then usually what happens is when it comes down to it and you've got money and a client, they want to see like, oh, I know they've done it. It's kind of a hard thing, because like, how do you prove it if you don't get the opportunity? And I understand the conundrum, and even with like different kinds of directors, like getting the opportunity to do it, it is, that's kind of the hard thing, because you're like, oh, like I love them, I love their treatment, but I haven't seen them do this yet, which is not really fair, but kind of just sort of the way it goes. I think a little bit.
Like I told you, I don't know if we were recording when I said it though. The things you're saying, not to put too much pressure on you, in a good way, you could be driving someone's career.
Yeah.
Because now, heck, even us. I mean, sometimes we have these great discussions, and we'll go back to the office on Mondays, and I'm like, hey, did you listen to that episode with so-and-so? Like, we might need to change some direction here, because that was a really good tip. Like, we should, should we do a spec? Should we do this? Should we get out of healthcare and try other, so it's these are very good nuggets that you guys are putting forward.
I think the counter to that, though, is, sometimes you have, like, the accomplished director with the great reel, and they sort of, it's not a big deal for them. They're mailing it in, they're squeezing it, and you don't want that. So maybe
we've heard about that too.
I think you do want someone who feels like invested and has some passion towards the project and is going to bring something new to it. I've had this where the director is an A-list director by some means, but you can kind of tell they're like, I'll do it, but they're kind of already working on the next thing, and it feels like it's not a priority for them. So
we've heard that too. Someone recently, they were like, we found out the director didn't even know his company sent that treatment in for him, just because work, bills, keep it going, keep the machine going. And he's like, I don't want you don't even know you pitched on this project, get out of here. So it's cool to hear this stuff.
And then there's the other thing with, like Jess was saying, like with treatments, like you can see a beautiful treatment. Sometimes the directors, I think a lot of times, I don't really know, don't even do them. I think they have people who do them. So you're like, wow, this thing looks amazing. And you're like pointing out like a photo or a shot, and they're like, huh? What are you talking about? But I mean,
it's true.
Yeah.
So it's Monday morning. You guys won. Everyone in the office is cheering for you. Nobody's bitter that they didn't get it. Everyone's on your side. You're looking through reels of directors specifically. You already told us how this one went down, with Glenn and David. I would assume David had his own production company that he wanted to do this with, so you guys maybe didn't have to pick a production company in this case?
Yeah, there was a production company that he was working with, but I do remember what I was going to say.
Go for it.
So you said what happened the next day, that Monday, everyone's celebrating. Exactly what Adrien said, but I think the other thing that happened is we took a step back and we're like, oh, this is real. Like, the entire world is going to see this spot. What do we really want this spot to be? So I think the spot, as scripted, as presented, and where it is today, once we actually produced it, it evolved so much. And it evolved before we even got to the point of talking more to David and talking more to Glenn and bringing in all those people. I mean, we really, at every single step along the way, and we've been, we're working with these other two great creative directors that are on this as well. Every single line, every single scene, every single joke, we came up with so many options of what that could be up until the day of the shoot. We just pushed and pushed.
So it sounds like you're saying you're creating all the way up to the day of the shoot.
And after.
Because everything's getting evaluated. And after.
And after, because a big part of the spot, once you see it, is Glenn's in the spot. He's also the voiceover for the spot, and you record the voiceover after. And a lot of the jokes are in that as well. So, we shot, and then we realized, okay, we're going to go record this voiceover now. You do that a few weeks later.
Did you guys go to be in person for the voiceover?
It was a remote record.
Remote, okay.
Which I never love, but it is what it was.
Were you live?
It worked out great. Yes.
Cool.
You tend to always be live. I find in-person records to be much easier, in-person edits to be much easier. There's a lot of things that I wish kind of could go back to the way they were, to be completely honest. But up until that point, we were still writing lines, plussing jokes, and Glenn was great about trying things in the record. Kind of he's okay to be goofy and silly, and that's why I think he was so funny in this spot. And he just gave us a lot of options. And when we got into the actual mix, and when we were picking the final voiceover for the spot, we had multiple ways in which it could go. And I
think that the client was also great in regards to, like, we do so much work to sell something, right? Like, most stuff just gets vaporized, and it's like, okay, this one thing's actually getting made. And some clients will make you shoot the board, shoot exactly what you presented. I think the really good clients understand that's just like the starting point, right? So a production company like yourself, or a director, like, that's the opportunity to really make something better. And, like, as Jess was saying, like, through that process, you constantly are crafting. You're working with the director, and you're trying to find better visual jokes, better gags. Glenn does better reads. Even last night, we're doing the conform last night. We're playing with, like, the frames and, like, the size. Are we adding, like, different things like that? So, like, good clients will understand that the initial thing you bought and the thing that's produced, that's an opportunity for it to get a whole lot better. So, I think hopefully in this case that was true. It definitely was, working with David and Glen, I think they really added a lot through the process, compared to where we started, right?
We're days away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This thing's coming out. You guys are up till 2 a.m. still working on stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So not all deliverables have been turned over yet.
No.
Is that correct?
No.
Also normal.
Well, I think they did
Validating.
Yeah, no.
That makes us feel better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So even you guys we're days away, and some finals are still being tweaked and modified.
Yeah, last night we were kind of going through everything. We were in a conform, so it's kind of that moment when I liked how you said it last night. It's all the pieces are coming together, right? We've been working on the mix. You've been working on the color. Now we've brought everything together, and you have to go through everything with a fine tooth comb. And I mean, Adrien was great last night. It was 1 a.m. and he's working through the size of the legal copy and deciding what should the opacity be and should it be centered. And it's like that stuff really matters, and somebody is making that decision. And in this case, it was him. But it's just a lot that goes into the spot up until any spot up until the really last second.
Can I ask about some tech? Was that remote with an editor or a production house?
That was remote. Here? That was remote with our VFX production house, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in LA.
They're in LA.
Frame Store. They're amazing. So we kind of do that with their flame artists. They kind of put everything together.
So someone's up late with you. Mm-hmm. You're on a.
Yeah, I don't know
what
why.
Software do you guys use?
I don't know why it was that late necessarily, but I think Flame is the main thing they kind of put everything together with. Once you're shipping, you're like, okay, is that one thing we didn't do gonna be on that film forever bugging me? So that's where I'm like, let's get all these little things right, because we're gonna have to stare at this. It might be on our reel for years or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Part of the reason why, not that this, we're working within the timelines, but part of the reason why, we're working on this spot up until the last second is there's a lot of visual effects in this spot. So we've done tons of spots in the past, right, that don't have as much. But I would say, almost every other scene has some kind of epic visual effects. So you really can't, you basically, you shoot it, you lock the edit, and then you start working on the visual effects. So there's a lot of steps that go into the process, and then that you're constantly working on, perfecting, meeting about, really up until the end.
Yeah. With something like this, it's the Super Bowl, and it's fun, and it's funny. How are you guys balancing that mood and keeping that energy without letting the stress and the pressure crush you? How are you keeping it fun? Are you guys who's driving the ship? Who does everyone look at to keep it fun, to keep the mood? Is it you two?
There's a crew of us. There's 4 of us kind of working on this very directly. Barrett and Greg, who are CDs on the account, were it was our spot, and we kind of just ended up being like a super team working on it. I think it was a really good team dynamic, honestly. And I mean, the good thing about this one is it's comedy. So we're like, is it funny? Are you laughing? That's pretty easy. Sometimes it's harder when it's like other kind of stuff and there's difference of opinions. But I think we all kind of were feeling things in the same way. Like, if we're feeling good and laughing, even though we're obviously a little tired of hearing and seeing this thing at this point, but
Well, and this question stretches a little bit beyond just this spot. I think what I'm also asking is, this is still work, but you are people use the phrase, well, this is the Super Bowl of golf. And it's like, well, no, this is the Super Bowl of Super Bowl. So how do you guys balance it back out to walk in and people be like, oh my gosh, these two are awful?
Well, I have a story for you. I was
let's
thinking
hear it.
about this last night or this morning because we were up so late working, and I was thinking about how many times in advertising you kind of push yourself to the physical limits, honestly, as ridiculous as that sounds. Like you're up all night. There was one time where I was a different client here at GSD&M, but we did this event through the night and we shot it, and the plan was to edit it overnight, ship it the next morning. So we were up all night, and then we actually didn't sleep, and then we had to go into the client and present the next round of creative for the next thing we were going to do. And it's just, it's taxing. And it made me think, Adrien and I recently were in a position where we flew down to our client, Fruit of the Loom, to present the next campaign. And we flew down the night of the election.
The night of the election.
So we all woke up, 4 a.m., whatever time. You see the results. I won't get into how we felt, but you see the results. We couldn't sleep. And then we had this huge presentation 5 hours later. And you have to go and you have to be on and you have to seem excited about what you're doing. You've been working on this campaign for months and months, and you want to sell it, and it's hard, but you have to almost just like turn your brain off, I think, at that moment from the thing you don't want to think about, and turn the other side of your brain on and just bring your best. And we ended up doing really well, but it's difficult.
This particular project, it is, the Super Bowl. It's fun. I think this is the kind of project everyone wants to work on. You don't mind staying up late or working weekends. We gave up some vacation time. This is a good one, right? Like, this is fun. This is kind of fun, just in the fact that it feels big. It's fun. It's well funded. Like, we kind of got what we need. Not all projects are like that, right?
So it's cool. It sounds like what you're saying is it's easy to kind of remind yourself that it's worth it.
Yeah,
once
so.
It's at this level.
So.
It's maybe harder on something that's not this, where you're getting pushed and it's
course.
supposed to be fun, and it's not the Super Bowl, and you might be.
Yeah, this one's fun. This one's fun. They aren't all fun, but try to make them as fun as you can.
I also think we had a really good group. I mean, it's not, the truth is it's not always the case. So we love the two other creative directors we were working with. The clients were awesome. Like, everybody, the account people, like, everybody brought what they needed to bring. The producers on this, I mean, God, when you talk about who's steering the ship, that's who's steering the ship. And that, like,
the agency producers?
The agency to producer is kind of guiding us through every step until the end. And we had 2 producers on this, but 3 actually. But, right at the end of it, it's our producer, Spencer, and he really is just night and day. I don't think the guy has slept for 2 months, kind of getting this across the finish line. But I think that just the people you're working with, and I've learned this kind of throughout the years, it makes all the difference. And if you don't like who you're working with, your every day is going to suck. And if you do like who you're working with, then I think even projects that aren't the greatest can still be kind of fun. And I think, like, one thing that I wish I would have known earlier on in my career is that stuff changes so fast. So if you're on an account, good or bad, if you love it, it might be like the account could leave next week, or the people you like working with could leave next week, or you could end up on a new account, and like vice versa. You might not be happy, but things change so fast in this industry, and you might still be at the same agency, but if you're on a different brand and working with different people, you basically have a different job. And it took me a few years to figure that out.
This one will seem kind of vague, but this is your answer. And they obviously don't have to be the same just because you worked together a lot recently on some of these accounts. But it's vague, but it's yours to answer. What's the secret sauce?
The secret sauce?
Yep. It's intentionally
to life or to advertising?
You know what? If you want to add life in,
I don't know
that,
the secret sauce to life at all.
Let's say the project, the brief comes in, and you're the guy, and they're saying deliver.
The way I think about that is, can you make anything entertaining? Like, some advertising, and I think, like, that's the key of, like, what most people like in advertising is it entertaining? Even if it's dry information sometimes or whatever kind of product, can you make it entertaining? And I think good creatives take that on and they say, yeah, I can make that entertaining. I think if you can do that, you can have, you can do pretty good work on anything and have a pretty good career.
Okay. Do you have your own perspective on what entertaining means?
To get a little philosophical on advertising, like, it's become something you don't want to watch, you avoid, right? Like, we got our phones now, we don't need to see advertising. It's not forced. It's not, we can scroll past anything on our DVRs, right? So is there an ad, is there a commercial? And the Super Bowl is interesting because it's like one of the few times people really want to see advertising. It's probably one of the last places, live sports, the Super Bowl, where people really want to see advertising, and everyone kind of puts on their best show. I mean, you can do that anytime, but for some reason, brands, and it seems to be a special place where...
I like that. You can do that anytime.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're not willing to front the budget for it anytime, but yeah.
But, like, you basically can do entertaining work anytime, although somehow it's become reserved for the Super Bowl, which is kind of odd. But I don't know. I mean, if people, the Super Bowl, people will talk about ads. I don't know if people will do that the rest of the year because I don't see them together anymore. It's one of the last communal viewing places for advertising. Otherwise, it's sort of interrupting your feed somewhere. And we've done some TikTok stuff for free people, and that was more of the stuff people seek out. They want to see it. It's not an ad I'm avoiding. It's like, oh, like, maybe that's something interesting I would like to, sort of, we're competing against, like, all the other amazing content in the world, right? So there's movies, TV, there's really sad dogs on TikTok with Sarah McLachlan songs. So you got to, like, you're kind of competing against all that stuff. To me, that's entertaining. If there's something people would want to see and maybe share.
So I would say, to answer your question, what's the secret sauce? I think it's chasing the good work or doing the good work, chasing the good opportunities, I should say. I realized early on, or I wish I would have known early on, that as much as you can, and I'm speaking to the younger creatives out there, but as much as you can, say no to the stuff that doesn't really feel like it's an opportunity, and always say yes to the stuff that you feel like is an opportunity. Because I think at the end of the day, when you look at who's going to want to hire you or who the agencies appreciate, I don't really think they care how hard you work. It's really like, what did you do? And if you did the big thing or the great thing or the thing that's getting attention, that's ultimately what's going to work for you. That's what's going to get you your next job or get you the promotion or get you the money, whatever you want. And I think people sometimes just get so busy in the stuff they feel like they have to do. They don't really chase the stuff that has the big opportunity. So I wish
that's a great, I think it's a great like piece of advice for anyone, but for like young creatives is someone said like, get busy on the good stuff. If you get busy on the good stuff, you're too busy for all the other stuff. And there's a lot of other stuff, right?
That's good.
You know?
Yeah, I like that.
And he's very good about that. Still to this day, I mean, I learned this, you know, I one day I realized like, I can say no, like this is my job, but I can say no to this project and yes to this project. And I've tried to put that into place, but you still to this day, like I sometimes feel guilty, like, oh, we should just do it. We should just take it on. And he's very good about keeping us focused on the stuff that we ultimately want to do and that will pay off for us. And I think that's just kind of how you're going to end up doing the work that you're proud of.
I love those types of discussions because those are, they, at least for me, for us, sometimes they can feel long-winded, but they feel so important, even if I don't know how to find the destination.
Yeah.
Sometimes to say, I know this is a job, this is a potential paycheck coming in, but with all due respect to this potential client, this is very uninspiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's like eating your veggies. Sometimes you got to do some of that stuff just to, there's other things that are less exciting you just have to do, and that's just part of being in the industry. But you know, you want to spend the majority of your time, you know, doing the bigger, more important things that are going to be visible for all the reasons Jess said. I mean, it's the stuff people see, it's the stuff they're going to talk about. A lot of the other stuff goes out and you don't know where it goes. I think that's a good piece of advice.
I want to ask about something you said, Jess. You said only do the good stuff because that's what they will see. Do you mean future opportunities looking at your existing work because it's the good stuff that you chose to do? Is that what you meant?
Kind of all around. I think if you are known as the person or the team that's doing the good work at your agency, you're going to get more, say you're a younger creative, you're going to get more opportunities at that agency to do the better work. So the next time a creative director team or a group creative director team is looking for a team to bring onto a project, they're going to say, oh, we want that team that just did that amazing thing. So now you're getting brought into another good opportunity. And then when the CCO of the agency is trying to decide who should we promote or, you know, whatever, who should we give this raise to, they're going to look at who did the work that everybody's talking about, like out in the industry, and that's making the industry look, or making the agency look good. And then furthermore, when you're applying to your next job, I mean, it's all about your book really at the end of the day. So if you have that great spot or the great things you've done in your book, you're able to get a better job, and then it's a snowball effect.
I think just it's probably a little bit from the like director production side. It's similar, right? Like you're gonna get hired.
Very similar. That's
you're gonna get hired for
it.
the work that you've done.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going, we want more of that, right? So
yeah.
If you do comedy, they're gonna be like, they're funny. Do more comedy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can do other stuff, but if you like doing that, people want more of it, right?
I'm going to ask you both about some of your individual work real quick, so if you're ready. On the note of creative and doing that entertaining work, I don't know if this was both of you or if this was primarily you, Jess, but you brought back the classic Fruit People.
That was both of us.
That was both
of us, so we can both speak to that. We would love to talk about that.
Well, I would love to hear about how you decided to bring back the Fruit People, because as I was looking at your stuff, that was entertaining, and it was a modern, funny spin on it, and I thought I'd love to hear about that process.
You know, when we first won the Fruit of the Loom account, so, you know, going back to whatever year that was, I don't even remember, and we were talking to them about their goals, and, you know, of course, like every brand, like they want to reach a younger target, they want to be more relevant, all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about like what is their brand really known for, and everyone remembers the fruit guys, right? The older fruit guys, but they hadn't been in any of their advertising for over 10 years. I think it was 13 years that they hadn't been in any advertising by the time we brought them back. And we had a lot of conversations with the clients about doing that because there was a lot of negative perceptions around them. They felt like it made the brand seem jokey or it made the brand seem cheap. And then the fruit guys themselves felt a little outdated. So I think there was a lot of, they were hesitant, I should say, to bring them back. But kind of the more we talked about them and what they could do and talked about bringing them back the right way, we ultimately, got to a point collectively with the clients, with the agency, with all of us on like, what would we need to do to bring them back? What would they look like? And I think that's where we landed where we did. And we ultimately launched them on TikTok, which was the perfect place to bring them back. And we completely reimagined them, right? So they're no longer the fruit guys. They're now the fruit people. They're more diverse. We brought in some women, and then their humor and the way they interacted and the things that they talked about was completely different than where they used to be. They were a lot wittier. I think it was like a smarter humor than what they used to have.
One of the reasons I was excited to ask about the Fruit People, is that the official title? The
Fruit People.
Fruit People was because it did seem like the perfect, I was like, I bet that prompt was interesting. They come to the agency and they go, help us. And we go, okay, well, let's take your classic and make it totally engaging for young people.
It's their most ownable asset by far, and it was just, how do you bring them back? I mean, I think we pitched that as SportsCenter meets The Office.
Yes.
And, brought to TikTok, and initially it kind of was under the guise that, like, they work at Fruit of the Loom, and, like, they've just got the job to, like, go do some TikToks, and they're like, how do you do this? So they were kind of, like, figuring it out as we were sort of figuring it out, and then it kind of went on from there. But we had good social strategy on that initially, which was all about, TikTok is not a place to watch ads. People don't go there to watch ads. You're literally, it's just entertaining things. Like, so they are fruit people. They're branded, but they are not always selling you like an ad. They're more in that sort of content entertainment space, which was a fun place to play.
And something that you maybe wouldn't imagine when you see these short TikTok videos is the foundational work that we did to pitch it. It was pretty extensive. It was almost like pitching a sitcom, or what I could imagine. That
okay,
that
so a lot of work went into it, and I'm not sure because I like it a lot. It was very fun. I think it was very effective. So, but it is cool to hear because one of the questions I wanted to ask you is they were on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I was curious to know how difficult or how much work went into something that is seemingly easy, because with the TikTok vibe, it's like, oh, they put somebody in a grapes costume and popped up a phone and it just happened to be funny. I was like, I wonder how much work went into this.
I wish it was that easy.
Good bit.
I mean, we had...
What was difficult? Because see, as a production perspective, we might go, that looks like it was on a phone. It's vertical.
Yeah.
It must be easy.
We did ultimately shoot some of it on the phone, but I just wanted to say, like, the background of it was... We had, like he said, that we had great strategy going into it. We had so many conversations about kind of the foundational elements of the story. We wrote up character personas. I mean, we were looking at other sitcoms, kind of like some of the, you were mentioning like The Office, and we were looking at like the main characters and kind of what are their different personas, how do they play off one another, and that was guiding us to the actual casting of the people that we ultimately casted. So all that happened beforehand, and it seems like these quick kind of funny little spots, but really there was so much work to get it to the place that you see it.
It was, I think for that one, because it was pretty foundational stuff, I'm like, oh, this is this like hugely memorable, ownable asset for us. What do they look like if they are new? Now they're women, they aren't wearing the same felted, like there was a whole bunch of little things just to get it kind of started properly. And that was a bit just the client.
It's like a lot of character design.
Yeah, I mean, just the client had so like, it was such an ownable historical thing for them. They were really interested in how does that happen. Once we got it going, then we're just writing.
Was this? I'm curious. Sometimes the saying goes around, and I'd love to know if this is a good or a bad saying from people with your experience. I think it's give them what they want, not what they're asking for. You ever heard something like that?
Yeah.
Was this potentially one of those things where because it's almost like you gave them exactly verbatim what they asked for, but I wonder what it's like when a client doesn't see that yet.
I think,
or in this case, did they get it right away? We're like, that's exactly what we wanted.
They did. It was just more, I think that was particularly a little bit like their company alignment. Mm-hmm. Different people like, oh, what does that mean if we do this on TikTok? So it was just getting everyone aligned before we started shooting stuff. And then once they saw it, they loved it. I think there was a bit of backstory to kind of just get that going. So, and then once we did, we shot hundreds of these things. So then they're not that hard. You can just, find funny bits to get people in costumes in an office. You can kind of write those forever.
And then there's so many rules that you probably wouldn't imagine, but that go around kind of the do's and don'ts of them as we're kind of creating these characters or creating these stories. Like, do they know their fruits? Do other people see them as fruits? Like, are they others? Like, there's a lot of kind of guidelines that we follow when we are actually shooting, because you want to make sure there's like consistency in the storyline, consistency in the characters.
The thing I was just thinking about is funny is like that and the Super Bowl almost couldn't be more different. like where it's running, the budgets, everything, like I feel is like a very, very different kind of thing. But they're, I think, hopefully both entertaining in their own way. So maybe that's the one thing.
Can I just add on to that? Because I love, obviously, like the process that we've gone through with the Super Bowl. And like you said, we had a great budget, a great crew. Like every little detail has been scrutinized. I also really love doing work on TikTok and doing work on social, because you can kind of experiment more and play more. And there's not that much pressure because you're doing a lot more content. You know, there isn't as many eyeballs as like a Super Bowl spot, and like the budget isn't the same. So it's just, you're allowed to be a little bit more playful and maybe try things that, or take a risk that you wouldn't take in like a more traditional spot. And it's just very freeing in a lot of ways. I mean, my background, I've done mostly all commercials, all TV. So once we started to do more social work on TikTok, I've really been enjoying the process.
Yeah. Well, a bit of a selfish question here as I was looking at your work. Your case studies are very cool, by the way, on this stuff. Does GSD&M put those together for you? Or did you guys do that on your... I was looking at your website where I saw your case study.
We do that here,
yeah.
but we're the ones that write it, and we work with an editor to do it. And
that's awesome.
GSD&M is great about realizing how important it is. Like a lot of things like that, you really can't tell the story unless you have something like a case study.
Well, it's great. I went down the rabbit hole and I was like, yes, the classic fruit people. I really didn't remember them myself. Yeah. But by the end of the case study, I was like, that's right, a classic. To go back to, again, kind of to be selfish, because people are listening on all sides here, production side and agency side, with the TikTok videos. I was curious, is there a director at all?
Yeah.
There is. Okay. Is there a production company at all?
There was, and we had our producer, you know, this is a tricky one because like there's a, you know, this should be really cheap, really easy to do with your phone. Don't worry. But like, it's got to look professional. It's got to like, right. There's a level to production that, you know, maybe it is shot on the phone, but we've got the right propping. We've got like, we've done it to a level, and we experimented both with shooting with iPhone and also with like proper cameras. And yeah, there was a production company, there was a director for all 3 rounds. Yes, they were awesomely important on the days we're shooting, but they helped us get the cast, right? So that was the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. Some of them were her friends. It was LJ, she's a great director at Hungry Man. So she helped us kind of shape the cast, and that was like really just like setting the mold. And then after that, we could just run with it forever, you know?
And a lot of times you don't have the opportunity to work with the same director again and again. And in this instance, we did. So like Adrien said, it was LJ Johnson. You know, Hungry Man's obviously a great production company. And she brought in this cast, and they had a relationship. And then the cast started to form their own relationship. So the next time we shot and the time after that, it just started to get easier and easier. And everybody kind of knew what we were doing, knew what we were trying to accomplish. And that's unique in a way. You don't get to do that a lot.
Yeah. Well, to go back to a discussion we had a little earlier with portfolio. You look at someone's portfolio and you go, well, I got to know that you've done this. Well, I'm sure a lot of people think they've done TikToks before. Did this director have stuff where they're like, oh yeah, I can do social media stuff that's seemingly... What's the word? How did you guys describe it? Scrappy, to make it seem like a regular TikTok, but it's actually for a brand.
Well, it was a little bit of that, like The Office, observational, like floating camera, like who's watching, like you're just in the room kind of thing. And she had done a series in Minneapolis where it was like a casting agency. And it was very much in that style. So we're like, okay, there it is right there. Like these are just,
in a social like 9x16 style?
Not in the format,
or just the style, like the story style?
Just in that like observational style. So we're like, okay, like, you know, like kind of feels like people improvising and feeling like they're just being caught off guard, looks at the camera, that kind of thing. So she had done that. We saw that. We're like, okay, she's great for this kind of thing.
She also has an improv comedy background, and all the people that we brought in to cast, and the people that she knew also did. So another thing you might not know is we go in and we have scripts, but sometimes they're a little bit more like guidelines. So sometimes like the characters themselves, they're so funny, they'll just throw out lines, and ultimately that's what makes the final cut.
That's great. So were you on Fruit of the Loom longer, or have you both been on it together the whole time?
Jess has been on since they won the business a few years ago, and I started working with her, I don't remember. Like
It's been a while.
Somewhere around 2 years ago, I started working with Jess on,
Okay.
on Fruit, and then we started working on other stuff in the agency.
Okay. Well, this might be a two-tiered answer, but I was curious to know, what is it about you that they trust that keeps them coming back to both of you and especially you? Why do they keep going, well, Jess has got this, or Jess and Adrien got this? We're going to keep going back to the well here. Because you didn't do the same thing every time. It hasn't just been the TikTok concept the whole time. You've done a lot of stuff for Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think maybe why we ultimately won, and I'm sure there's a lot of factors, but we felt pretty strongly about certain things going into the pitch. And when you're going into a pitch process, a lot of times you have something called a tissue session first. So it's kind of like a sneak preview for the client on what you're ultimately going to pitch them. It's meant to be like a non-formal pitch. So it's like,
Hey, we're just talking about some ideas, but these, maybe, do you like any of this stuff, without being like officially, this is what we're proposing?
It's supposed to be open and collaborative, and they're supposed to be able to kind of build on your ideas, give you feedback. I mean, the truth is a lot of times it ends up becoming like the pitch before the pitch.
So you're kind of workshopping
Workshopping
ideas. Okay,
it.
okay.
Let's
I didn't know
call it
tissue.
that.
I was like, do they cry?
Yeah.
Does this mean like they're getting their nerves out?
No, you're sort of like
There's a lot of crying just
test
in that moment.
balloons to see if there's something they're like sparking to. You're like, okay, cool. Like,
okay,
let's go work on that one more. You know?
How do you ask a client to have a tissue session?
It's pretty standard now, I feel like. I mean, a lot of times, like when you're going into a pitch process, you know, you'll get kind of the timeline of events. And I would say almost every pitch we're in now, there's a tissue, there's a pitch. And ultimately with Fruit, we ended up pitching and then pitching a second time. I think they got it down to 2 agencies. We pitched again, and then they ultimately selected us. But I think they really appreciated like how much we stuck to our guns about like where we feel like the brand needed to go, the elements that from the past we wanted to bring back in, and then just like kind of working with them throughout the years. Like they've said, I feel like 2 things to us time and time again. One is that they really feel like we listen to them, so they would give us feedback. We wouldn't be dismissive. We would listen, and we'd either try it or we'd come back with a very clear, honest answer as to why we don't think it works. Which is something I've heard a lot. And I also think they really appreciated our enthusiasm. Like we were really passionate about the brand. And I think they felt that. And I think they felt that every time we presented the work to them. So we kind of all felt like we were in it together.
Under the umbrella, I guess, of this agency, but you guys have done a lot, and especially you, Jess, have done a lot for them. So I was just kind of curious to know why they keep going, well, Jess will do it. You know,
yeah,
we'll get Jess to do it. So it's okay to pat yourself on the back a little bit here, because you've already thrown out a few good nuggets that are, like you said, they feel like we listen to them. You know, that's a simple phrase that a lot of people can overlook, or maybe think they're doing it, but they're not really listening, really doing it. So those little things they're very cool to pick up.
That was probably, I worked at Goodby with Jeff Goodby, and that was the one thing that stuck with me most. I thought, oh, that was the kind of agency where you go tell a client what to do, and like they do it, or like we're not changing a thing. He's like, no. Every time they give you an opportunity to make a revision, or use that as an opportunity to make it better, right?
I also noticed you just said opportunity, whereas
Yeah.
most people might say they give you a note.
Yeah, they give you a note, but don't just say no. Say, okay, let's take a look at it, and if you can come back, it gives you an opportunity to work on your thing, and maybe that note is an opportunity for you to make it actually better, right?
Yeah.
It's basically take a negative and make it a positive, because you want to have more iterations to be able to improve the work, right?
Well, I was saying it seems like a cool thing that is just automatically packaged as, oh, they've given us an opportunity.
Yeah.
Not even to skip over calling it a note.
I mean, it doesn't always feel that way, but it's
Right.
a good way to think about it, I
It
think.
does. It
anyway.
changes it in your brain a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, it's a good psychological rework of it. Okay, well, that was a good discussion about Fruit of the Loom. Adrien, I would love to talk about the time that you supported the opening for Tim Cook at a little event called WWDC. Tell us what that was for our listeners. Link will be in the show notes.
The WWDC is the Worldwide Developers Conference. It's a big annual event Apple has for all the people who make all those amazing apps you love on your phone. Gosh, this was a while ago now, 2015 maybe. And every year they do kind of something to warm up the crowd, a little film just to kind of break the ice before Tim walks out there. So I was actually freelancing at Media Arts Lab, and we got the assignment for that. Sometimes it's as simple as just like funny jokes over like animated Siri For whatever reason this year, originally wanted to do something with Modern Family. There's an episode in Modern Family where they use all the UIs from Apple. So they partnered me with one of the writers who actually wrote on that show to help come up with that. It ended up just like not happening, so we just had to pivot and do something else. So we ended up coming up with the film. I don't know if you've seen it, online, just to kind of warm up the crowd.
Oh yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Thank you. Similar in a way to like what we just did. We kind of had a concept, it evolved. They were like, we're not going to do it unless we get somebody really funny. And I was like, okay. And then they just go through the Rolodex and they're like, no. All the people that have done Samsung, you can't use any of these people. So
That's
somehow
funny.
Bill
Didn't know
Hader
that.
became our guy who could do it, and he wasn't like already tainted by Samsung. And yeah, we worked with Speck and Gordon, amazing directors who we actually talked to early on about this project, the Super Bowl project. It was
The
super
Super
fun.
Bowl project that's coming up.
Yeah. It was super fun. We shot that whole thing, concept to shot and shipped in weeks. It was crazy. Like, I was like, there's no way you're going to be able to shoot this, finish it in time for the show. Because it was like the show was happening on a certain date. They ended up getting like double crews. So they just got 2 crews to do everything for like 2 days.
2 production crews?
Yeah, to just run, just make everything happen a lot faster.
It sounds like what you're saying is that regional clients are not the only ones that will give you a seemingly unrealistically short timeline to pull something off.
Yes.
That this happens all the way up to Apple.
Yeah, Apple, they have decent pockets, so they they're not it's like the triangle of time, quality,
Good, fast, cheap.
good, fast, cheap.
Yeah.
They're like good, fast, we're good. That's kind of how that one works. The funny thing about that is Apple, they end up shooting a ton of stuff full up. It's like back in the day, Steve Jobs would. He's like, I can't look at a script. I'm not looking at a board. Like, make it, then I'll look at it and review it. So they shoot tons of work full up and then review it finished. And a lot of it gets canned and never sees the light of day. It's on someone's site, like hidden behind a locked thing. This one we did. We're like, it's pretty good. We're pretty happy with it. They're like, I don't know, is this too different for what we normally do? Some guy comes back in from vacation and he's like, I don't know. Let's do it. It looks kind of fun. So even though we did the whole thing, it still was like inches away from never seeing the light of day.
Did you happen, I know there was a writer, probably a whole team of
Yeah.
creatives.
Yeah.
Were you involved with the line, these are the Tim Cook-alikes you asked for?
I was involved. I can't take credit for that. I don't remember that, similar thing. It went through so many rounds of revisions and writing. We had done the initial script, and then another team came in and helped punch up jokes. I think even Speck and Gordon had some writers coming in and just like punching up jokes throughout. So yeah.
Well, it looked very cool.
Thank
looked
you.
like a validating project to be
It
a part of.
was so fun. It was a really fun project, yeah. And it was like, Bill Hader is as nice of a human as you could ever imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool to
He's
know.
hilarious.
These new Super Bowl teasers that are coming out, I think it's safe to say they're officially the norm. So you're not just pulling these all-nighters leading up to the Super Bowl. You now have these, what do you call them, pre-deliverables? Because Glen Powell and Ram both released these teasers on their Instagrams, a couple days ago?
Yeah,
Yep.
last Friday.
So you guys had to deliver those too? I
Yeah,
assume,
we had
right?
to deliver those first. I mean, we call them teasers. We had 2 teasers kind of leading up to it. Then we have the 60-second spot that's going to launch. And then there's also going to be a 90 that we're going to put out. And then there's others as well. There's going to be 30, some 15s that really focus on each individual truck. But yeah, I mean, the teaser, it's interesting because, it's going to be the thing that everybody sees first. It's going to kind of reveal to the world who's in it, a little bit about the story. I think you're walking this line of, you want to give away just enough and make it seem exciting enough that people are intrigued, but you want to leave something so that the time they see the spot, the day of the Super Bowl, it feels big and exciting and new, and you haven't given away so much that people feel like they've already seen it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like we're in the dawn of a new era where we're releasing teasers for Super Bowl commercials. Yeah. Like, I bet if you had said that to somebody 20 years ago, they'd go, no one's doing that.
Yeah.
But it's almost expected now.
Yes.
It is. I hadn't been paying attention the last couple of years if this is a brand new thing or people have been doing this, but strategy
I think it's fairly new.
Fairly
right?
new. I mean, a couple of years ago, it became the norm where people just release the whole spot a week before, and that would help build momentum for the game. And this spot will be out before the Super Bowl if anyone
The one that's playing during the Super Bowl?
Yeah. So there'll be.
Is it going to be the 60 or the 90? Are you allowed to say?
I believe both, but just to answer your question about the teasers too, because I think we could have gone about it, and I'm assuming people do go about it two different ways, but we knew going into the actual production what we wanted the teasers to be.
Oh, that's probably helpful.
So we scripted out a bunch of versions of what we thought the teasers could be, because we needed to know, was there a different shot or a different line or something we had to get on set. So we were prepared. And one of the teasers, the first one we did put out, was in a sense like a little shoot on the shoot, right? We shot it at the end of the production. We did that one. The second one that just got released Monday, that one was kind of taking shots or piecing together shots from the actual 60-second production. And that became our teaser number 2. But I think you really could go about it either ways. It's great being prepared if you can be, because it allows you to kind of pick up what you need to.
Now, is this going to be your first Super Bowl commercial?
I've worked on a bunch, but I can't think of any that I could actually claim really as mine. So yeah,
that's the same for me. Like,
so it's the same for both of you. This is both. That's pretty cool.
This is the first. Yes, that is actually like.
So what is it like at an agency like this one when you have a Super Bowl spot? Are you guys gonna have a watch party, or are you just from home and you're gonna text each other exhausted and be like, "Good job"?
Adrian's throwing a watch party at his house.
We'll eat some chicken wings and watch it at my house. It's super fun to put something out there that you're like kind of excited about people seeing, and I think it's good for the agency. Yeah.
Looking back at your career, what are some key moments or turning points that significantly influenced your approach to creativity? This can be a lesson you learned from a mentor. It can be from something awful that happened. Even if you just learned a thing, like maybe if you have I'll give a terrible example. I used to be a PA in LA, and one time some very unintelligent person was like throwing pebbles at me on the top of a 20-foot ladder that I was helping. And I thought I was going to kill him. I'm not that tough. But the gaffer came up to me because he saw me coming down the ladder, and he said, "Hey, I know what you're going to do." He said, "But I'll tell you right now, the only thing anyone will ever remember is who finishes it, and you'll never get hired again." And it just blew my mind, because I was like, whoa, that's experience talking.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those in advertising? Obviously, nothing has to be that extreme, but anything. Yeah. What's a big lesson that you learned at some point that you're just like hanging on to that? That's lore now.
I have one that popped into my head, although yours is better. So I'll try to think of something that great. But I had mentioned earlier, but like pretty much my entire career, up until this point, I did so much TV. I've been on so many shoots. And I think earlier on, I kind of thought a shoot would kind of be like going on vacation. Like, you've done all the work, right? So like you've done all the work, and now you're handing it over, and people are just going to shoot what you made. And I realized very quickly, you realize that like, it's kind of like when everything really starts, and it's like the production is the make or break of the spot. And I realized how much you really need to be on your feet when you're on production, and don't just go in there with the script that you've scripted and thinking. You need to go in with alt lines and alt ideas. And honestly, maybe what you think is going to be amazing, you get on set and it's not working at all. And you're on your feet the entire time. I mean, productions are stressful. They look fun. We stay in nice hotels. We go out to nice dinners. That's all true. But the actual production aspect, there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of eyes on you and on the moment. And it really all comes down to that, 1 or 2 days. So that was just a big lesson for me that I learned early on in my career.
Nice.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I think to not take everything so seriously. I mean, because you can really care about your work a lot, right? But at the end of the day, it's advertising, and it's more about your relationships than this thing that you're going to want to have a fit about sometimes, right? So I think I've learned to sort of let some things kind of flow a little more organically, because when I was younger, I was like very adamant about, having my opinion, and it had to be right, and it had to like have it my way. As I've aged, I've mellowed a bit, and I think that's actually been much better for the work.
That actually made me think of another thing kind of related, but I think the longer you're in this industry, maybe any industry, but you really learn to truly be yourself. I think when you're a younger creative, or you're a younger person in the industry, not just a creative, you see people in presentations or in pitches, and you think like, oh, I need to talk like that, or I need to act like that, or say those kind of things, and it's just not genuine to who you are. And I think people can feel that. So I think like so much of my process has been owning who I really am in front of a room. I mean, I talk really fast. I'm sure everybody has heard this at this point. I'm kind of goofy. Like, I think I tried to tone that down for a long time. And then I just got to a point where I was like, this is who I am. Like it or hate it, but this is what you're going to get if you work with me. And it just is, it's very freeing.
Yeah. If I could sneak this in during our break, I'll keep it vague. But on the note of maybe some cool lessons learned along the way, you'd mentioned that there's a time when someone said, don't do this, and you still did it anyway.
Yes.
And that was actually really inspiring. And I was like, well, that's actually kind of cool, because you not only did what they asked you not to do, but you came back and did it so well that they said, oh, we'll do it.
Yes.
That's great.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what you're alluding to, but I think it's a tricky thing because you can say no sometimes, and that's okay. You just can't do it all the time. I think sometimes people are like, you can never say no. You have to always do what you're told. And I don't think that will lead to the best work necessarily, but you also can't be adamantly no to every single thing that's coming your way. You'll never get anything done. No one will want to work with you. So I think there's a balance. I think as you work longer, you start figuring out a little bit of that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask this earlier, but our discussion was going so well, I couldn't stop and go back, but that's a good thing. What was the moment, I'd love to know for both of you, when maybe it was a good job or something, where you thought, oh my gosh, it's working? It's hard to determine when you're successful, but when is it that you're like, I can pay my bills doing this, and I don't suck, and I am employable, and it's working? There had to be like a hit moment in your career where you're like, I'm here and I will be able to keep going. This is good.
I went to SVA, the School of Visual Arts in New York City. That's where I went, and I was in advertising, and it was very competitive, and a lot of our instructors were in the industry, and they did a lot. They were very tough on us, and they did a lot of that, like, only 3 of, I can look around the room and tell you only 3 of you are going to make it, that kind of thing. So it just kind of taught you to be really competitive and to work very hard, which I give them a lot of credit. But like, I think a lot of us expected not to do well in this industry. And to be completely honest, it's not for everybody. So a lot of times, like, people go into it and they drop out of it really quickly. But I used to, go to school, and I hope I'm not aging myself now, but I'd walk down Madison Avenue, and there was all these like really big buildings, great agencies, and Y&R at the time was still on Madison Avenue, and it just had this like big entrance and this really ornate ceiling, and I just would see the people going in and out, and I was always like, wow, like maybe one day, I'll work at a big agency. And that was ultimately where I did well in college. And like I said, my professor was working in the industry, and he ended up pairing me and another girl who he really liked our work and our book, and he helped us get our first internship at Y&R, and that was ultimately our first job. But I think that was the moment, like, walking into that building that I'd walked by so many times, and now I'm finally like working there, and you're like, wow, I pulled this off.
That's awesome. What about you, Adrien?
Trying to think back, my first job was at Leo Burnett in Chicago, and we got hired as interns out of ad school and quickly like proved our worth and got hired on. And I think it was within that first year-ish, year and a half, we had won a gold pencil because we got to work on the Altoids account, which was just like a gift, honestly, because that account was winning awards every year, and we just happened to get slotted in to do one of those. But I felt like, oh, if I have this, like, I'm good for a minute. I felt like I could probably get another job, have at least a few years in the business after having that.
That's cool. So you felt like you were doing it. I
felt like I was doing it. Yeah, I was like, okay. I mean,
was it actually a thing? Like, was it helpful?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
I think like advertising in general, though, it's like you can never rest on your laurels, and no one cares. Like, if it's just basically like you think you've done something good that will keep, and then it's like, okay, but now what? So like,
yeah,
there's moments in my career where I'm like, okay, I did something, and then it's like,
yeah,
and now what?
Well, it seems like a weird balance, because almost every agency I've ever walked into has that trophy case, that wall of awards, but you're far from the first person to say no one cares about the awards. So there seems to be this weird balance between getting them to have on paper that proof, but also no one cares. No one cares,
and some people care. It's weird. Yeah, like I think when you're younger, people might care more, and then later they don't really notice or care. They're not looking that far down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought of one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Because it actually hit me on this last production we did for the Super Bowl. But I remember early on too in my career, and still to this day, and I'm curious if you feel like this also, but sometimes you're on set, and you've been working for months, half a year maybe, to kind of get to that point where you had this idea, you had to change it, you had to sell it through. I mean, there's so much that goes into actually selling through a spot and making a spot. And I always have this moment on set where I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, everyone's here kind of because of my idea, and all this crazy set design and these trucks and all the things that are set up. It's because I had this like little blip idea in my head, and now it's brought to life. And I remember the first time that happened to me in my career, and still to this day, like when we were on the set of our Super Bowl production, and I was like, oh my God, me and you were just talking about this idea like however many months ago, and like here it is, and like there was hundreds of people on that set.
It's one of the coolest things still is when that thing you thought of that, 99 out of 100 die, and then like that one thing gets through and you're on set, and there's hundreds of people making this whole thing a reality. So, I mean, I think that is
and it was this
the
little
most
thing from your
still,
brain.
Yeah, it's still like the most probably exciting part of the whole thing.
Well, I have a couple questions that I have to get to. These are some of the ones that people always want to know. And like I said, lean into it because they're here for you. What current trends in advertising and commercial production are exciting to you right now, and why?
I mean, everyone's going to say
Everyone's going to say AI.
AI.
But,
I don't know. I mean,
it can be anything, by the way. It can be, okay, so I would classify this trailer for your commercial as a trend. Anything can be a trend. And there's no rush to answer if you want to take a minute.
I mean, AI, everyone's going to say, is like exciting, which it kind of is, but it's also kind of scary.
It's a lot of things,
I mean, I think with that, and I saw someone else talk about this, so I'm just kind of stealing this, but like, I think what that can do potentially is there'll be a whole bunch of middle, right? A whole bunch of stuff any AI can generate. And hopefully you still need humans to do like the more interesting, newer stuff, right? So maybe there's still like, maybe that becomes more important, more of the entertainment, more of the more original ideas, more of the things that AI can't copy.
Can we talk about AI for a second? Or
of course,
just because it's been such an interesting process. I mean, we both have been in this industry for a long time, kind of prior to it coming into place. And I think we're all trying to figure out still like what it means, obviously. And I don't think any of us can predict where it's going to go. But I think it is going to be really helpful to us in some ways. I mean, we talked to you a little bit about us selling the Super Bowl spot, and AI played a big part in us creating the animatic, which ultimately helped us sell the idea. So if you look at it in that way, it was really helpful. I think like things like, I'm on the writing side, and there's things like Chat GPT, and sometimes like there's writer's block, or you get stuck, or you don't know where to start. So it's like sometimes I'll type something into Chat GPT, and it will serve some things up, and they're pretty generic and they're pretty expected. I don't think anything like that could ultimately ever be used, but sometimes you'll see something in there that sparks something, and you're able to kind of free up your thoughts and start working from there. So I have found it to be really helpful. But the flip side of it is, how good is it going to get? Is it going to replace us? I think we all worry about that.
Yeah. AI aside, not that there's anything wrong with it, because it is. I mean, it's a lot. It's exciting, and it's the boogeyman at the same time. And it's just it seems like it's going to stay that way for a long time. Yeah. Because let's use the example you just shared, the animatic thing. Well, that's so cool for you guys because you can drive and you can go much faster. And sure, maybe it's going to spit out gibberish 9 times out of 10, but maybe that one time you get a storyboard and you're like, that works. And then there's also some editor that maybe would have loved to have gotten that call from you to put that animatic together. So it's going to be bittersweet for a long time, I think. But you're basically the experts of the industry too, for people who are looking up to you and up and comers. They're curious to know production companies. Yeah. If there's trends there as well that you're seeing, and it can also be things that you don't like that production companies are doing. If there's anything that maybe they're not getting right, that they could do better at. And any trend at all. I mean,
just a general trend, and again, I think this is sort of loosely on the AI thing. And I think this is a good thing for our industry, for production companies. Like, no matter how much like the formats change, 6-second ads, TikTok, like it doesn't matter where the content goes. We need more content. Storytelling and like people who can do that will still have a place no matter what the platforms are, I think. So I think that's actually good. I think like AI and all this other stuff trend-wise might do some of the heavy lifting that can kind of go throughout, but you still need proper storytelling no matter what the platforms are.
That's I'm gonna jump onto yours, but I think that was very eye-opening to me the more we started to work, like especially on Fruit of the Loom, or just the more we've been working on social. I think as creatives you're taught always or you have this belief that you always have to do something unique. You have to be the first one to do it. You don't want to copy what anyone else has done. But then a lot of times when you work on social and you work with social strategists, so much of of what they want to see or what they talk to you about is stuff that has proven success. So it's like trends, they want to copy trends, right? So they're like, well, this was successful over here when this brand did it, so we should do that for our brand. And as creatives, we're like, what do you mean that brand already did that? We need to do something completely unique. And I think there needs to be some kind of blending of the two, where it's like, I understand that there's proven success on something, but like, how do you take that for your brand or your project or what you're trying to do and make it completely your own and something no one's seen before? And I think that's like when the spark actually happens and then there's success.
So I'm going to ride the coattails of what you guys said. And you might have already just answered it. But I was going to ask eventually, as the advertising landscape continues to change, what skills or qualities do you think will be the most important for success in the years to come? And you guys have touched on them several times, which is great already. But if there was anything you wanted to just kind of tap in.
I stole this, and I think I'm remembering it right. CBH, who's at BBDO, it's like rent the technology and buy the storyteller, right? Technology is going to... It's going to change. It'll be TikTok. It'll be like a reel. It'll turn into something else.
Yeah.
But the storytelling, the people who can do that, I think hopefully that's the kind of thing that will work anywhere, right? It doesn't matter what the platform is.
And I don't think, or like I would imagine that who is successful in our industry kind of hasn't changed. I don't think it ever will really change. I just think they'll kind of apply different technologies in different way. Like I think people that are enthusiastic and just naturally curious and just creative, it's like I think like as AI becomes a bigger and bigger part of our lives, like that same curious person that was there 20 years ago is just going to learn to apply the AI to whatever they're trying to do and have success there. Like I still think it's like kind of the weirdos, I don't know, and the people that like are very like unique and have original thinking that are successful in what we do, and I think we'll always be successful in what we do.
I actually think you're exactly right, because to validate your point, I think if I'm understanding the themes correctly of what we're all saying, you guys did that with the Fruit of the Loom TikTok spots in a way, because you weren't chasing the newest camera or the newest drone. You were actually using a new piece of technology that's just new and different and telling a story in that way, not necessarily freaking out about like, we have to have the Alexa 35 on a drone from a rooftop with Unreal Engine in the background or something. Like you found a way to be creative in a new way that's not necessarily the most expensive, flashiest thing, and you made it work.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think like to use that same example, if there was a trend happening at the time that we're making the Fruit of the Loom TikToks, we're not just doing the trend to do the trend. We're doing the trend because it furthers the story or it makes sense with what the narrative that we're telling. Mm-hmm. And I think that's maybe where sometimes people get it wrong.
Yeah. So this is one of those obligatory questions we've got to ask. Up-and-comers, young people, learners always want to know, what's one piece of advice that you would give to them for breaking into the industry, or some advice to not listen to as well? It can be either of those.
I mean, I think like we said this earlier on, but if someone didn't hear it, like about chasing the good work, I think that's like something that I think I tell people, younger people now, but make sure like always just get on the best opportunities that you can. Say no to the opportunities that you feel like aren't going to further your career, like as much as possible. Like don't chase the title, don't chase the money, really chase the work, because then all that other stuff will come. Another thing that looking back on my own career, if I could maybe do things differently, or if I would have known this, is that I feel like the first agency I went to, or the first or second agency I went to, kind of set the path for all the agencies that I've gone to, and the type of work that I worked on kind of set the path for all the type of work I was going to do later on. And I didn't realize how key kind of that first decision of where I go or what brand I work on really was. And listen, I'm happy with where I landed, but like I tended to do a lot of the same thing after that first job, work on the same types of brands, doing similar work at similar agencies. So that's something to pay. If you're lucky enough to be able to decide and you have different opportunities, just keep that in mind.
Well, I like that. That thematically connects to something you guys said earlier. I think you might have said it, Adrien. What was it? Because you phrased it better than I'll be able to. But being very intentional about the work that you're working on.
Yeah, I think I said like get busy on the good stuff at your agency, right?
Yeah. Does that kind of connects to what you were saying?
I think that's like, if there was one thing I would want people to take away, it's that. And
that's great.
I think younger creatives they feel lucky and appreciative to have the job they should. Mm-hmm. And I think they just have to say yes to anything that comes their way. And I think that ultimately will harm them. I think they think the harder they work and the more they say yes, the happier the agency will be with them. But I think ultimately people are going to be happy with you when you do the next big, great spot. Even if you've said no to the other 10 things that came before it. And it takes a little bit of courage, I think. And it takes somebody telling you like, hey, you actually can say no to this thing. So I think that's what we're trying to tell people.
Very good reply. It's awesome. Good luck, Adrien.
Yeah.
How do you
I think that's great advice. Clearly, I mean, follow people, follow the talent, go where the good people are. I mean, other people have said that clearly, but like, you know, go to the places where you see people doing the work you want to be doing, because you're more likely to be doing it there.
Can you help us out? What does that look like? Does that mean even if it's the most bottom job and working your way up?
I mean, generally, if there's an agency you admire, I'm not going to, you know, everyone, there's great ones, this one included. If you see work at that agency or a creative director or someone doing that work and you want to be doing that kind of work, try to go there, be where that stuff's happening, right? It's a lot harder to be doing that kind of work everywhere else. I mean, it can be within an agency, it could be just a different account, a certain account or a certain creative director or a certain group of people you're working with. But if you can get nearer to that place where people are doing it, you're more likely to be doing that kind of work, right? Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Oh, no, I'd written this down.
Let's hear it.
This is not that breakthrough, but like for young people, it's not a 9-to-5 job. Like, and I think people getting into the industry, like some people want to come in and they want to go home, and like the balance of life is awesome, and everyone should have that. But like, I've never seen anyone really successful in this industry just do that. It's like it takes 3 times as much work to do 1 time better work. It's a weird balance of like effort to reward. It's much harder to go from a B to an A than it, you know, like 10 times than it is just to get by with a B. So it is a hard industry. I mean, I think that's why I think like any young people interested, it's like you kind of got to love it and you kind of got to be really into it, because it's hard and it's not an easy job, you know.
What's that hard thing that you think separates the... Trust me, there's going to be people who are glad that you said that, because a lot of people want to say that, but nobody knows how to say it without being called like boomer.
Yeah.
As you said,
Yeah.
even I'll get called. I'm not a boomer, but I would get called that for having the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And we've had those situations where somebody will be like in year 1 of their career and they're like, well, I got to go. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I think
and
expectations don't match reality when you want to be doing something, but you want to be putting in a certain amount of effort. Like, it's always much harder than you think it's going to be, right? And again, if you kind of have to like really love it or want to be doing that kind of stuff. You can't be saying, I want to be doing the next great Nike ad, but then, you know, thinking you're going to do that between the hours of 9 to 5.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you genuinely believe me when I say that it's really cool to be able to sit down with you and talk about the process a few days out from your Super Bowl spot.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty neat to hear about that. And it's cool. I know we weren't on your team, but it's neat to feel like we're kind of sharing it with you.
No, that's awesome.
A little bit. So I think we'll be thinking of you guys, you know, when we see the commercial come up.
Like us on the ad meter.
Yes.
Like you on the ad meter?
Yes.
Well, I'm already participating in Brandon Curl's ad fantasy football
Oh,
thing
yeah,
that he's
that's
doing
awesome.
here. Yeah.
That's
So
You
awesome.
got a sneak peek on the trucks now.
No, but this was really fun. Thank you for having
yeah.
us.
Where can our listeners follow your work or connect with you guys to learn more or follow your careers?
I have a website, but maybe GSD&M? I don't know.
Yeah, same. You can
You
follow
have a
us at-
website and a LinkedIn page. Very
Yeah.
good. And a good website.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That's where I watched your WWDC
Okay,
spot.
you found it.
It's
Yeah,
pretty good.
probably not that hard
Yep.
to find.
Can I link it in the show notes?
You can.
All
You
right.
can link mine as
You'll-
well. Yeah, and all my contact information is in there.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This
It
has
was
been
so fun.
great.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.